Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second Tuesday evening Behind Enemy Lines with Mike Lauber. And Mike, going forward on Tuesdays, is going to be the co-host with us. We're grateful to have Mike be the producer, co-host, and everything else for that matter. And then Paul will be back on Thursdays. So he's got his campaign. He's underway. And so Tuesday and Thursdays, you're going to be able to see us. Mike, Terry, Paul, Terry. So thank you for being on, Mike. And we have a very interesting guest, Sheriff Mack, who I missed last time. I was traveling, so Paul Drabeck interviewed Sheriff Mack. So I didn't have the opportunity to speak to him. So very excited. Want to ask him a number of different questions, especially with all the things that changed in the last few months from Sheriff Mack's perspective as being a constitutional sheriff. So before we get started, we have a couple questions for you, right, Sheriff Mack? Instead of me destroying your bio, why don't you give your bio, and then we'll go from there, Mike. Sound good? Anything
Sounds
you want
good
to say,
to
Mike? Well, welcome, Sheriff. Buddy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being with both of you.
Well, thanks for being here. And, I guess you could kind of give our audience a quick rundown of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and your background there. And then I got a very interesting question for you after that.
All right. Well, I served 20 years in law enforcement, and my dad actually retired as an FBI agent. I tried to get in the FBI, but it didn't work out. Oh, and boy, am I grateful. It just wasn't meant to be. And
probably a good
I'm so
thing.
grateful. Yeah, it was absolutely a wonderful thing. At the time, I was disappointed, but I got into law enforcement. I was working my way through college as a meter maid. Do either one of you know the official term for meter maid?
No, what is
Gas
How
meter?
about this? You're going to love it.
Parking meters. Okay.
Parking enforcement cadet.
Yes.
Yeah, how's that? Yeah.
You probably got abused more there, right?
Then I hired on with the Provo Police Department in Provo, Utah, in 1979 as a full-time patrol officer. I'd worked about a year before that as a meter maid, and then I did everything in law enforcement imaginable: murder investigations, bicycle theft, undercover narcotics officer. How about that? Every crime that is possible, but I've never shot anybody, never killed anybody, never beat anybody up. I was a street cop for 5 years, and I was always high in arrests, and I have to repent of this, always high in writing tickets. Writing tickets is immoral. Most traffic tickets are immoral, wrong, and don't help anything except bring in money. Yeah, I've got to have that money. And then I decided to leave Provo and move back home with my wife. We're both from Safford, Arizona, which is Graham County. And I ran for Graham County Sheriff in my hometown. It was quite a miraculous election because I had lived there for 12 years, and I never served in law enforcement or in any government capacity anywhere in the state of Arizona or anywhere in my hometown. But people were ready for a change, and I was new blood and I was old blood, and I got it. In 1992, I was reelected. Then in 1994, I became the first sheriff in American history to launch a major lawsuit against the federal government, take it all the way to the Supreme Court, and win. And that was a case where against the Brady Bill, against a gun control law known as the Brady Bill. Mm-hmm. And you probably don't know this, but there were actually 5 Brady bills scheduled to be passed one year after the other until the Second Amendment was going to be completely gone. And because 7 sheriffs rose up and stood against it, because 6 sheriffs joined me in this lawsuit, we took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And then Prince from Montana, Sheriff Prince, and I ended up at the Supreme Court together in December of 1996. And just 3 months before that, I had lost my third bid to become for third election to be reelected as Graham County Sheriff. And since that time, I've been on the lecture circuit. I've written 8 books, and I started the CSPOA, which every citizen should be involved in and every citizen should join right now. Join our posse, cspoa.org, and become a part of the solution that is both peaceful and effective. And the reason we formed the CSPOA is so that people across this country who are being victimized and abused by government will have a place to turn for peace, safety, and liberty. And if that be not your sheriff, then you probably don't have a place to go.
Oh,
And
man.
we're really proud of the work that President Trump is doing, and Donald Homan and Tom Homan is doing. And we are encouraging every sheriff in America to cooperate and participate in the deportation of getting rid of all these horrible criminals that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris not only invited into America, but facilitated their transportation into America with this treasonous act of having these gangs and international terrorist groups come in to infiltrate our country. That happened during the Biden administration the last 4 years.
Yeah,
Well, is that the worst thing that happened to our country in the last 4 years, or the last 100 years for that matter, or do we have something even worse on the table?
Oh, you beat me to it. You can ask a very simple question.
That is a hell of a question. And to be honest with you, it's not the worst thing. The worst thing that has happened in our country is the absolute, utter, and ubiquitous corruption of Washington, D.C. politics.
Yes.
Agreed.
And let me show you the example of that. There's two examples that are absolutely mind-blowing. One, the Internal Revenue Service, who has victimized and terrorized and completely intimidated and bullied the American people to pay taxes that should never exist in the first place.
Agreed.
And these people have gotten away with so many different crimes that it's mind-blowing. And the innocent people that have gone to prison or who have decided just to quit life and committed suicide because they were so torn up and destroyed by these people. I have a friend in Utah who was audited for 22 years and hounded. And finally, he died of a broken heart.
Yeah,
literally,
I believe it.
A broken heart. They took away his business. They took away all his money. He ended up working not in a McDonald's, something similar to McDonald's. And then a friend of his asked him to come and work construction. At that time, he passed away. He died.
Hey, Sheriff, could you explain, like you say, the taxes they shouldn't? So, could you explain which taxes you think should be paid?
The income tax, a tax on your income, on your work, that is completely opposite of the American system of promoting what my fruit of my labor belongs to me, not to the government. And what does the government always say? You need to pay your fair share, or even worse, we will allow you. Now, Bush said this, George W. said this all the time. We will allow you to keep more of your money and your hard work and the fruit of your labor. Yeah. That is the one thing that all of us should be able to keep automatically.
Yeah, and they think it's their money. But, the law has actually never been changed from 1913. It still says voluntary compliance. There's still not actually a law on the books that requires an individual to pay a personal income tax. Never been changed, never been updated. And if you look at a lot of people they go after for tax fraud, they don't actually get them for tax evasion. They get them from other things, document crimes, falsifying records.
Failure to file.
Yeah, exactly. It's BS. Everybody knows it. And hopefully we're about to get a major overhaul to the tax code. But personally, I'd like to see the IRS just eliminated and instead.
If you simplify the tax code, you don't even need the IRS.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't need them anyway because they're a bunch of crooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
the other one.
Go ahead.
The other one part of that, the second part of that, and this one's probably even worse, that the taxpayers of this country are being forced by the color of law, by the point of a gun, are being forced to pay their hard-earned money to a NGO, a non-governmental organization, a private club known as the Planned Parenthood, so that they can kill babies.
Yeah.
With taxpayer dollars.
It should be stopped immediately.
And both Democrats and Republicans have made sure that $800 million a year goes to Planned Parenthood, for God's sakes, a private club, a private organization that provides no government service whatsoever. Yeah. That is the epitome of corruption. That is absolutely something that God is going to curse us with his worst punishment because we have not protected the most innocent among us, and the corruption of taking and stealing taxpayer dollars to provide for that service is absolutely the most evil, heinous thing that could ever happen to us. And as one leader of Planned Parenthood said, we will have wholesale abortion across this country for anyone, anytime, for any reason, and the Christians of this country will pay for it. They were right.
What I don't understand is as a Republican, I don't think any organization should be getting our tax dollars and then use those tax dollars to give money to another political party. Outside of all this other stuff. I mean, that you say, like, what do you need our money for? I mean, they should be stopped immediately, regardless if it's a Republican or Democrat organization. Right. They should not be allowed to donate to any party.
Of course. Why isn't my organization funded by the federal government?
Right.
We protect civil rights. We protect the freedom of the people. And this organization provides no benefit. We don't want to be funded by, don't get me wrong. Yeah. We don't want to be funded by the federal government. But we don't want any other organization being funded by the federal government.
Yeah. So Sheriff,
and it's not the federal government; it's we the people, and it's our money.
Agreed.
Yeah. I didn't get. I wasn't on last time. I've been working with Tom Homan in Chicago. I don't know if you saw the story in Gateway Pundit. When he came in December, we had he had some public meetings, but we had 3 private meetings, including law enforcement from the city of Chicago. The city Chicago police officers that are on his side. We had private meetings. They want to help him. They want to embrace him, right? When he comes to the city of Chicago, we had Democratic politicians. I had Hispanic pastors, Democrats, African-American. They want him to come here. But what I'm telling you is the other things I've been doing is I've been getting all these FOIAs, right, of Trent Largua. I confronted him more than anybody in this country, face to face, these gang members. I also have FOIAs from Catholic charities. Okay, I'm a Catholic, and they're getting so much money. And then they were putting up, at one point in time, I got their PowerPoints that they gave the city, right? They were putting up 55 apartments per day, signing those that don't have any social security numbers, giving them electricity, gas, their utilities with our money that we later find out, right? And then I had somebody come with me and translate at one of the shelters, one of my Mexican buddies, to these Venezuelans. I said, is Catholic Charities helping you here in Chicago? He translate, yes, they are. I go, did Catholic Charities help you at the border? He said, yes. I go, did you have to pay the cartels to get into America? They said, yes. So Catholic Charities, my religion, even though I'm not a good Catholic, is basically like a human trafficking mule of the drug cartels. Yeah. They're no different than the drug mules, except they're not doing, well, in some cases they probably are. They don't know it, but they're trafficking people. And we're paying for it, and then they're hiding under the guidance of religion and all this crazy crap. Chicago has a big Catholic community, and it's disgusting. They're ruining our country with our tax dollars.
Right, exactly. And we're paying for our own demise.
Bingo.
Now, this has got to stop. And I'm telling you, if Congress doesn't defund Planned Parenthood, then I'm going to file a lawsuit against Congress and to challenge them as to why I don't get funding for the CSPOA. If they're funding Planned Parenthood, why am I not being funded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's more reason.
14th Amendment, equal protection under the law.
Yeah.
Well, they can't distribute taxpayer dollars to one organization and not to another.
Yes.
Well, not to mention, you're more tied to something constitutional and within their purview than Planned Parenthood is. You're there to inform people of their rights, protect their civil rights, and to work with law enforcement so we have better cohesion across the nation. Whereas Planned Parenthood is there to line their own pockets and murder as many children as humanly possible.
And the other part of that corruption, is they take a lot of our tax dollars and then give it to the campaigns of these extremist Democrats who want to continue all that. So it's just one continual round of corruption, and it goes keeping around and around and around. And then they, of course, these politicians love to get back some of that money from Planned Parenthood.
So, another example, before I came to the show tonight, I was driving down Ogden. A radical leftist organization called Indivisible. They're in all the states, right? They're getting funded from Soros and all this other stuff. They're funding and they're paying people to go to Tesla over here by my house. They're protesting Tesla. Somebody got arrested for damaging property, but they got these nice fancy brochures they're sending out. They're showing up at all the different Tesla locations. getting tax dollars, getting funded money from Soros and them, and they're coming out and protesting against Elon Musk and trying to do the right thing for our country. And these people are getting money from us to harm us.
Yeah, it's just like I say, it's just one big continual round, and I'm very encouraged by what Trump is doing so far, and just so this is another thing I got to tell both of you, and he's a friend of Tom Homan's, but there's a sheriff that has been prosecuted by the Biden administration, by the FBI, was found guilty 2 or 3 months ago, and right about the time that Trump was winning and hadn't taken office yet. But he's being sentenced this Friday, and he's looking at 15 to 20 years in prison for a so-called bribery charge, public corruption charge. That's really cute, isn't it? The FBI investigating public corruption. They're they're the most corrupt of any of them. He is not corrupt. He is a good man. I've known him. I've worked with him the last 20 years. He's a very strong constitutional sheriff. He's lost his job. He's about to lose his liberty, and it will be a death sentence for him if he goes to prison that long. And he's going to be among gang bangers and convicts that he helped put there. And to put him among that criminal element, I mean, he's a dead man. And I don't think Trump has heard about this yet. I'm positive he hasn't. Tom Homan knows about it. General Flynn knows about it. We've got to get this to President Trump, to get this man. His name is Sheriff Scott Jenkins from Culpeper County, Virginia. And if you Googled it, you'll see it, that he got convicted. It's a big farce, and this needs to be reversed we need a huge undo by President Trump and set this man free and make sure he doesn't spend a day in prison, which could happen this Friday. So I've dedicated my life to this right now. It's our number one priority at CSPOA. Free Scott Jenkins.
Is it federal charges you're saying, or state?
Yes,
federal.
All
you said
federal.
FBI, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So trust the FBI and the Biden administration on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So General Flynn will be on March 18th on our show. So he'll be on.
Once we're off air,
I'm sorry. I don't know. What is today?
March
today's
18th.
the 18th. But after we get off air, Sheriff, give me that information. We'll talk for a few minutes. And I think I can get into somebody's hands.
Yeah, please do. We really need the help on this. We've got a sheriff in Florida that's trying to get it to Pam Bondi. But it's really hard to get some of those people that are blocking that and just trying to protect Trump. I understand that, but we have got to set this man free. And he is such a good man.
Well, I'll do what I can. I don't want to do any name dropping here at the moment, but
please
I can
do
pass
anything
it off to
and
a few
everything
people.
you can. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I forgot to tell. So since this is Mike's second time on the show and they see him looking like a pirate, I just want to let him know he accidentally bumped his head into the mic before the show and hurt his.
Well, he can't talk so good. He can't talk so good anyway because his eye is hurt.
Yeah. I had a cataract surgery earlier today, but now I'm doing okay now. Not in any kind of pain or anything. I just got to keep the eye covered for 24 hours and all that fun stuff, or a couple days. So, but I'll be back to normal. I can still function.
The most important book that anybody could have in America today.
Yeah.
Supreme Court case for victory. This is my Supreme Court case. It's only 16 pages long, but it fits in your shirt pocket. It's shorter than the Constitution, the pocket Constitution. It's shorter. And folks, this is the most powerful Supreme Court case ever rendered on the 10th Amendment. The only time in history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won. And this case, I'll give you one quick little quote from the case. And as a matter of fact, if this case had come out last week, the people in the freedom movement in this country would be going crazy about this. It is so powerful. Written and authored by Justice Scalia of the United States Supreme Court, came out June of 1997. And this is a quote in this case. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions and protects us from the crisis of the day. Our best intentions and the crisis of the day that government creates with their corrupt methodologies and then they turn it all against us. If we would just read this and the pocket constitution, we would have all the answers. This is absolutely astonishing. It was a terrific, amazing, astonishing victory for freedom.
Agreed.
And sheriffs did it. And so, folks, get this on our website. You'll see my hand holding it, so like this kind of thing. And so the picture of it is kind of like this, me and my hand holding it. But get hundreds of these. They're very inexpensive. They're like $3 for $5, and you can get them and hand them out to your local officials, especially your sheriff and county commissioners and city councils. And let's take America back. And it's key that our local officials are educated. And this is great. This is a great tool for that.
Yeah, we need ours and educated. So I have a question for you. Now that President Trump has labeled Tren de Largo as a terrorist organization, probably no different than Al Qaeda, right? For that matter. Yeah. And living in a state like the state of Illinois, where you have sanctuary state, and some of these cities have sanctuary cities, and if they take into custody a known Tren de Largo tattoos, known Tren de Largo, are they bound by the sanctuary state laws that they can't contact ICE or Tom Holman and say, we have in custody a number of Tren de Largo criminals that we caught in the midst of a crime? Or can they be punished by J.B. Pritzker for violating the sanctuary state law? What is your opinion on that? Now, and real quick, so I got connected to one of Tom's local guys when this first was announced, and I asked him, I called him, and he said, you know what, this thing just happened, I'm not sure. And then I talked to a friend that's a chief of police where they arrested 140 Venezuelans here in the suburbs, right? And he just arrested 4 Tren de Largo before Christmas. And I said, does this mean you got the green light now? He goes, that's funny you asked that. We were just discussing it, his team, this morning. This is a few weeks ago. So what is your opinion on the ability to go around the sanctuary state bullshit when you catch a Tren de Largo?
Well, I think you gave the answer right there. First of all, it all is a bunch of BS. And all of those sanctuary laws are illegal, criminal, unconstitutional, and absurd on their face. They're absolutely absurd. The Democrats want to keep all these gangs here. Folks, you voters, you Democrat voters, you're going to vote for somebody, a sheriff, a chief of police, which you don't vote for anyway, a city council, a governor, a mayor who wants to keep all these criminals here? Are you out of your mind? Mm-hmm. Look at what's going on and vote against the treason. Vote against those who would create more crime in our community, and then they want to act like some sort of hero? Look, the first obligation of government is to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to do that, then every sheriff has an obligation to stand against it. Yep. And if you see a criminal and you've arrested him and now he's in your jail, of course you should call ICE. Of course you should cooperate. And you tell your governor to go pound sand, and you tell the mayor, who you don't work for anyway, and you don't work for your governor, and you don't work for your legislature. Look, everyone needs to understand this. The sheriffs are elected, and they are appointed through an election process by, for, and of the people in their county. Can the governor fire your sheriff? No. Can he hire your sheriff? No. Only you can do that. And they're stealing authority and stealing your stewardship, which makes us a constitutional republic because we, the people, choose our representatives. And when government steals that away from you, they're destroying the republic that was established for us in the first place by our founders.
Agreed.
Do not go along with politicians who think they know how to take care of you. They don't.
Yeah.
And every sheriff has an obligation to put freedom, the Constitution, and safety of his people first.
Before the politicians, right?
Absolutely.
So that was great. Thank you. Another thing, if you saw, I don't know if you saw the mayors when they spoke to Congress, right? Did you see that at all?
Some of them.
Brandon Johnson,
especially the one from Maine.
Yeah, so I kept track of Brandon Johnson because I follow that guy, right? He's close to my heart. And all four of the mayors actually lied. And I sent this to Tom and some other politician friends I have. So they first of all, they lied about not following the immigration laws, right? I think we're going to find out more about that because they opened the investigation, right? But all four of them said, we follow all federal laws. All of them said that.
Oh, gosh.
Brandon Johnson said it twice. So I know lying to Congress is supposed to be a crime, I guess, unless you're a Democrat. But
yeah.
Right? They lied more than just lying about not following immigration laws.
Right.
All four of those mayors illegally sell marijuana in each city, illegally at the federal level, right?
Yeah, federal level.
So what I told Tom and those guys, I said, listen, you got to do a little Trump negotiations here. Either you guys instantly start cooperating with ICE, or I'm going to put you in jail. Well, file charges for you lying to Congress, but I'm going to send the DEA in and shut down every one of your illegal marijuana shops in your whole city until you start doing the right thing for your citizens, right? They have the right to do that, right? I mean, it's a federal crime.
Don't do that. I actually support legalization or decriminalization of marijuana.
Yeah. No,
so don't do that. But and I don't smoke marijuana. I don't use the products. But the war on marijuana has been a complete farce and failure.
I agree with you. I said that. I agree with you, right? I think that, and I don't smoke.
Well, I know you got common sense.
Yeah, I don't smoke marijuana either, right? But I think that alcohol is more harmful. And you would know as a
it is by far.
And
alcohol is the worst drug in America or in the world.
I don't care about marijuana. I don't like it. I never eat like I'm not trying to say, hey, I got a secret agenda. I don't like it, right? No. But I really do. And I see growing up in the South Side and all the stuff I did, more people die and get arrested, do crazy things on alcohol than marijuana. So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, and back to the Constitution, are states allowed to pick and choose? Hey, I'll follow this federal law. Oh, I'm not going to follow that one. Oh, I'm going to follow this one. I would use it as a weapon and say, listen, do the right thing for your community, the cities, the countries. Either you cooperate, get rid of these criminals, or we're going to lock down your illegal marijuana shops until you cooperate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a brilliant way to put some leverage on them. And it isn't just the loss of revenue that they're having from getting all these businesses shut down that are selling marijuana. They're going to have immediate pushback from the citizens there, too, because it's yet another consequence of their actions. They've already wasted billions and billions of their tax dollars funding the illegals in Chicago and other cities. But yeah, if you're able to leverage this, anger the public, cut off the marijuana, and also hurt the government's pocketbook from the tax revenue, especially in Chicago, because isn't it something ridiculous over there, like a 40% tax on it?
I mean, and then Pritzker gave out the licenses initially to all his friends, the wealthy guys, at first. So I would even take it a step further, and I'd focus on Wrigley and all these wealthy guys. I'd shut their shops down until they start whining and stuff, Yeah,
and quite honestly, I don't want the DEA to do that, and I don't even think the federal government. There's only one place lawfully that the DEA has any authority to go after drug interdiction or drug trafficking, and that's at the border. That's the only place the federal government has law enforcement jurisdiction is at the border.
God, who could have used you in the 80s for crying out loud?
Yeah, I know. But folks, nobody in Washington hardly follows the law, and so let's go over this. The federal government was granted 5 law enforcement powers in the Constitution. 5. Let's review these real quick. The first one is treason. That's a federal offense. Treason is a federal offense. Don't you wish the FBI would investigate treason?
Oh my God! Right?
Yeah. The whole Biden family would be in prison now. Yeah. And then the next one. Yeah. Exactly. And then the next one is counterfeiting. This is all in the Constitution, but you won't find any more. Third, felonies committed on the high seas or piracies. Okay. 4, Article 4, Section 4 requires the United States government to protect our borders from invasion. A bang-up job they've been doing there. You don't need new laws to do it. There's plenty of laws on the books, okay? You can enforce the laws on the books. There's about 26 immigration laws on the books, okay? So those who keep saying they need to fix and get the laws, enforce the ones that are there. Stupid. Read the book. Okay? And then the last one is laws against treaties. So if somebody violates a treaty, we have a treaty with Canada or Switzerland, whoever, doesn't matter, and some citizen violates those treaties, that's a federal offense. That's all they get. Now, how do we know that they don't get any more than those 5? Read the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States government by the Constitution are reserved to the states or to the people. That's why.
Correct.
They can't self-aggrandize. They can't give themselves more powers than what the Constitution already says. But the problem is the states are supposed to be the ultimate check and balance on that authority and stand against it. And the states have gone to sleep, and they've been part of the problem in taking federal grants. And federal grants are also illegal. They have no authority to take money from the taxpayers and then give it back to state governments or sheriffs and have them raise more manpower and they need more money so that the FBI and other federal agencies can have friendship fees. And all of that system is entirely corrupt. It's federal grants are actually bribes, and it's all part of the corruption that we talked about at the beginning.
So I want to tell you about counterfeit money a little bit. The
American dollar.
Yeah, we'll go back to Trent Largo, all right? So the first set of FOIAs I got was multiple murders. This is specific, Sheriff, of Trent Largo from the Chicago Police Department, right? Multiple murders, human sex trafficking, child pornography.
Yeah.
They beat the hell out of their wives. I got it's all from the Chicago police, right? And they use a Vortex phone that was a tax-funded phone. It was the old Obama phone. Remember that?
Yeah, of course.
And so they're used, and the police write this in there for us, right? They don't want them here. Their lives are in danger because of these people, right?
Of course.
So the news, I just got a new set of FOIAs that are just within the last week of a number of arrests. So the Trent Largo are moving up the food chain with their crimes, and they're not just like regular gangs from the city of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Counterfeiting, right? I'm in Chicago. They're going to Detroit and they're buying cars from dealerships with counterfeit money, and they're bringing them back to Chicago. It's all written in the police report.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that one.
They're kicking. I just got these FOIAs. They're kicking down. They're just like, I'm Italian, just like in the 1920s when you had the Chicago mob. They would they would prey on their own people. My grandfather had a bakery that was shut down and burned down by Al Capone because he was old. He came from Italy. He refused to pay. They're doing the same thing in Chicago. So I got another police report that three Trent Largos go mass kicking a door with a machine gun and say, "We're Trent Largo." And they ransacked the house. I think there was more to the police report. The guy must have been in some kind of crime with them because they didn't get into the details of why these 3 masked men came in, kicked his door down, and ransacked his door. They're forging passports, driver's licenses, registrations. They got vehicles from New York, Michigan, and Texas, and then they're forging the temporary license plates.
And then there was another counterfeit case in that batch out of Colorado where they're were caught with counterfeit money. They don't know what it was used for yet.
Yeah, well, it again, here we go talking about more corruption. I read a book back in the late 80s called The Sovereign Individual, and that book said the only real pragmatic competition that the mafia of today have is the federal government. That's their own legitimate competition.
And another prediction that you watch, mark my word, next summer. So back in the 20s, you had the Italian organized crime, and you had the Irish, right? And what were they fighting over? They were fighting in Chicago over what? Alcohol. What's going to go with Trent Largo and the African Americans? They're fighting over fentanyl and drugs, right?
Right.
And the biggest Chicago is known today for the St. Valentine's Day massacre, right? There were 7 people killed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that there was right around Thanksgiving a mass shooting of 8 people in Chicago. Did you know that, Trent Largo? At 2:00 on a Monday, 4 women and 4 men. I knew right away it was them. The following
black on black crime every weekend in Chicago has more than that.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about one shooting. But even with the gangs and African American gangs, you never hear about 4 women and at 2:00 on a Monday afternoon shot with 4 men in a car. I knew immediately it was Trent Largo. It was right by the Gage Park thing. I called my cop buddies. It was Trent Largo. The following week in Cicero, Illinois, where Al Capone's from, right? Remember Al Capone made his little hometown there in the western suburbs? The following Friday, police officer shot in the back. They never did that. Those gangs don't do that. They shot him in the back. On Sunday at 12:20, there was another four people shot, 2 women, 2 men on a Sunday. The crime is rampant in Chicago, Sheriff. It's all, and these gangs are spreading like cancer. Next summer, it's going to be crazy. Unless Tom Homan, seeing what he's doing with these guys, putting them in the prison, they're going into hiding. They are going into hiding.
Well, have either one of you heard about Sheriff Dale Wagner in Washington State?
No.
His attorney general is suing him because he's trying to cooperate with Tom Homan.
Yes, I have heard this. Sorry.
Yeah. And so we're going to go out to Washington and have a big seminar and rally to let, first of all, the attorney general know the law that he's not in charge of the sheriff and he can't sue the sheriff for doing his job. And try to keep people safer. But this is how absolutely insane all this corruption has gotten. And so it's not just Chicago. Now it's happening in Washington State. And this small town sheriff, Dale Wagner, good man. And then our good constitutional sheriff in Klickitat County, Washington, Bob Songer, is helping us put together all this so that we can go out there and support the sheriffs standing against these corrupt politicians.
Yeah. Here's another story for you. I live in a nice suburb. My neighbor, who I don't know is a doctor, was robbed by Venezuelan gangs on my block. Doctor, when he wasn't home. The mall had 140 arrests in like 15 months, mostly Venezuelan men. I know the chief, and right around Christmas, they arrested 4 Trent Largo guys. One of them had a colostomy bag from a gunfight in Chicago. He's in the county jail now. He had a colostomy bag, which we had to pay for the surgery and all that stuff. He got shot, wounded. And then they find inside the vehicle, Sheriff, they cut off the ankle bracelets that Biden says they protect us and stuff. They find the TAC officers find them in the cars when they're in there doing shoplifting, organized shoplifting within these malls. So I'd like to pivot a little bit to the next thing that's really important and high on my list. I'd like your opinion on. Now that Trump said we're supposed to eliminate DEI and all that, CRT crazy stuff, and they could withhold federal funding to the schools. My children are seniors in high school. We've got, the oral sex. A teacher this week just got arrested, a female teacher, for having sex with a sophomore in high school. In December 19th, a male teacher, child pornography in my kid's school, 19 years in prison. All right. I've been speaking up about the porn, the drag queens, the transvestites. I've been attacked. We'll talk about Antifa and SPLC afterwards. But now that Trump made this supposed to be eliminated, is there anything? I don't know how they're going to execute it. They're going to implement it. So my school's full of DEI, porn, all those things that Trump just signed an executive order. Is there anything that we can do or the sheriff can do? What do we do in the meantime? Because I know it's going to take a while to kind of get that thing flowing, but I want to stop that as soon as I possibly can.
Well, again, the sheriffs of this country have got to focus on their duty, their oath of office, and the duty to protect their citizens from all from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Yeah. And it turns out that a lot of times government is the enemy. Yes. Government is on the wrong side. And remember, Ronald Reagan warned us about this. Government isn't the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. And that is what's happening. And we've seen that with the money going on, not just with Planned Parenthood, but look at what the Biden crime family has done. And all of them in that family, all multimillionaires now. Yeah. And that money laundering was going through Hunter Biden to the big guy, his father, the vice president of the United States, and later the president. And they're all flaunting it. They're flaunting it. I want to ask, what was it, Congressman Kramer that was in charge of this? Where's that investigation? Right. All you had to do is get the records out of the banks.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get these people prosecuted. You want one of the biggest criminals in America that not only allowed but facilitated the crimes at the border, and that is Alejandro Mayorkas.
No, I hate that guy.
Well, Sheriff Mark Lamb in Pinal County, Arizona, has already done a criminal investigation and put it on the county attorney's desk, and it's just sitting there. What are we doing? Conduct the criminal investigation on this guy and get him indicted and get him prosecuted.
Yeah, well, that's one of these big problems that we've seen for really the last 4 years is so many of our state AGs lacked the courage to actually do anything about it. You had a handful that would pursue charges, but like the Hunter Biden laptop, thank God for Garrett Ziegler. He took that thing down to bite-sized pieces where he had crimes committed in what state they were, passed these off to the attorney generals in various states, and none of them moved forward with anything. Thank God they're starting to question President Otto Penn's pardons, because we're not sure if a robot can issue a pardon or not while the president's out of the country, or who actually wrote up that pardon or had the Otto Penn sign it. And again, like, I understand, like, an auto pen is for when the president needs to sign 1,000 Christmas cards, send them out to, his supporters, people that volunteered for their campaign, for things like that. Or I could see a president using one, if they just had hand surgery or something like that, couldn't physically sign a bill, have them press the button on the auto pen. I'm fine with that. But when it's being done remotely by staffers or, potentially by Barack Obama, as some people are suggesting, who wrote these pardons? Did Biden even know about it? Especially after seeing that video from Johnson, from Speaker Johnson, just before Trump was sworn in his second term, where he talked about this meeting a full year before that. He couldn't have told us about it after it happened. He kept his mouth shut like a loser he is. But he had a meeting with Biden, and Biden didn't even remember signing this executive order that cut off selling natural gas to parts of Europe, and it really impacted Louisiana. Biden thought it was about studying the effects of it. He was convinced that. He had to go get somebody to print it off, bring it back to Biden. He clearly didn't know what this was, didn't remember signing it. Again, everybody knew how useless and brain dead this guy was to begin with. But this is another, act of fraud that's been perpetrated on our country for at least the last 4 years. And we do need to get to the bottom of it. And I do think all these pardons he issued are invalid. So maybe we'll get lucky and we will see some justice for the Biden crime family. I just hope some of these conservative, air quotes, conservatives, Republicans in office, so many of them are undocumented Democrats that I think they'll just back down if there's any real effort to go after the Biden crime family.
Amen. I'm totally with you. And I'll tell you what, your show is tremendous. I think what we've covered today could really help America. And you want to hear a scary thing?
Always.
We only detect, in law enforcement, about 12 to 15% of all crime, which means the corruption and criminal activity in Washington, D.C. is 8.5 times more than we know. It's worse. No kidding. That should scare every American and wake up America and get rid of these politicians in Washington, D.C. Even the 3 or 4 good ones that we have there, just vote them all out, get everybody out, start over, and get people who will uphold and defend the Constitution and take their oaths of office seriously and take care of the money and do a paper trail on every single penny that is spent in Washington and stop funding anything and everything that is not authorized by the Constitution.
So I got another local question for you, Sheriff. I like your input. I know Paul brought it up. You do a lot of interviews. You probably don't remember about the sheriff in my town, my sheriff that sent the state police here. I know Mike sent you stuff because I called his friends rhinos and stuff, and he bragged about it. I knew before they were coming here. I talked to Laura Logan. I'm like, yeah, the sheriff, he sent me a threatening email. He said he's going to send the police here, put me on a list.
No.
Yeah, because I was calling Rhino. I was calling his friends Rhino, and they did show up. They showed up on my front porch, but I found out.
Well, then you were right, weren't you?
Yeah. This guy in 2009, he's running for governor. That's why I'm bringing this up now. This guy's running for governor. He took almost $100,000. This is the sheriff from a guy that was on the sex registry list, a sex offender. And then he never gave it back. And I kept hitting him for the last 2 years. And then he said he didn't know the person. I know he knew the person. Now he's running. This man's running for governor. And then we had a few years ago, if you remember, Pritzker had that unconstitutional gun ban, right? The semi-automatic gun ban. Remember his national news? Right. So he's like, yeah, I'm not going to enforce that. All of a sudden, a little pressure from the Democrats. Yeah, okay.
95 sheriffs in Illinois said they were not going to enforce it.
He said that at first. Guess what? He said, okay, I'll enforce it. Mike sent you the story. He said he changed his mind from a little pushback. So what kind of governor would this man be from a little bit of pushback. And then I know Paul talked to you about it over Christmas. He decided not to enforce the court-ordered evictions because he was playing Santa Claus. I was a landlord. I got in Chicago and Cook County. My rent was it wasn't an investment property. It was a necessity. I was trying to rent it to buy time when the housing market, $5,000 a month this guy owed me. And over Christmas, they don't evict people. Sheriff Medrick, because he knew at the time he's running for governor. We didn't know, oh yeah, I'm not going to enforce those court-ordered evictions. And Paul told me when he was talking, you said, oh, what does the guy think? He's Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Other people's money? This is the man that's supposed to be running for governor. He's already showed that he's not a good person. He's already showed that nobody should take money. And especially if you said you didn't know and then keep that money. He's lying. He knew. He kept the money.
Of course he knew.
Donated it to women that were abused or something like that. He's not a good man. He's not a good sheriff. And I just wanted to get that out because he's a thorn in my butt.
Well, between him and Pritzker, I wonder who's. Wow.
No, that guy's not going to last. He's the first.
I hope they get a candidate there that knows a little bit about the principles of freedom our country was founded upon.
Yeah, my God, that guy's such a clown. He's going to run for president, I think. It seems like him and Newsom are trying to one up each other, being more radical. Well, Newsom kind of pulled back, didn't he? A little bit. Newsom seemed like
a little bit. Yeah, I just saw an article yesterday about how California is the worst run state in America, and how much debt they have on, and obviously they just throw money at every problem and just get all the entitlements and all the giveaways. And if you want to move, we're going to tax you for that too, because we know how you guys want to leave this horrible state. So we'll tax you for that. They're just, could it be this whole interview for the past 55 minutes has been about the backdrop is what utter corruption we are fighting in this country. The real criminals, politicians.
Yeah. You know what else he did, Sheriff? A couple little things here. Pritzker just signed that the illegals can get licenses just like you and me. I had a friend call that introduced me to whistleblower in Springfield, right? He works on the driver.
Well, you can get registered to vote then. If you have a driver's license, you can get registered to vote.
They could get configured licenses exactly like us. And then Janulius, as Secretary of State, got these 3 vans that would go in the Hispanic communities and sign them up for their state IDs and as well as entitlements. Then Pritzker just 2 months ago put in a law that you could change your identity in 3 months for these people. Yeah. And they put another one in that you can't use E-Verify to verify that they're a legal citizen. It's all going on in Illinois.
It's embarrassing. It's astonishing, and it's destroying our country. And I just don't think first of all of this, the debt, the corruption is completely unsustainable. And I believe that Trump has more work to do than any president in the history of our country. If we're going to really clean up Washington and the deep state, God bless him, God protect him, and God bless all of us to stand behind him, and let's take our country back, for God's sakes.
People have to be prepared to sacrifice. We have too many people in America that this generation got soft, and we have to sacrifice to do the right things. I'm worried that people don't want to give up their latte for a week, let alone all the stuff that we have to go through to rewrite this ship. That's my biggest concern, that as time goes by, if the changes don't happen quick enough, people are going to start turning on them. And that's my biggest fear.
Yeah. With all the pushback that's happening, with just getting rid of criminals out of our states and streets, off our streets, just to do that. And everybody knows they're there. And yet they're being attacked. And what are they doing? Bombing and Molotov cocktails at Tesla dealerships across the country. That's absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
Let's blame Musk for all the problems in our government when they're just exposing the absolute crazy crimes of these corrupt politicians. Just absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, we continue to see leftist violence escalate. It's the Tesla dealerships getting burned down, keying and attacking private vehicle owners, shooting up other dealerships. This stunt they tried to pull in Trump Tower the other day. But it's also this epidemic of swatting that we're seeing now. Juanita Broderick, she was just swatted last night. And again, she was one of the Clinton accusers from the 90s. So why pick on her now? Oh, it's because she's prominent on Twitter. I mean, a lot of these people are, several of these people are now like personal friends of mine. Sean Farash, we've had on our podcast several times. I've worked with Joe Peggs at Patriot TV for a while. It's shocking, and it ought to be treated as attempted murder. I know some of these people are hard to track down because they're using cell phone spoofing software from India and outside of the country. But I feel like more can be done. If we want to track down some terrorist in the far corner of Kabul, Afghanistan, we can do it. We really need to be treating these people the same way. But same with these other people that are now making threats on Twitter and TikTok. Some of these just disgusting videos about Republican women need to be raped, or calling for the assassination of President Trump or Elon Musk without calling it that. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. Nobody's policing it, and I really think we're headed for another summer of love if somebody doesn't put the boot down.
Absolutely.
Sure.
We are. I know we got started a little bit late, Mike. I got one more question for Sheriff Mack. Do we have time?
Yeah. Let's run one last question as long as you got time, Sheriff.
Last question. We talked about it before the show, Sheriff Mack. I had the second story written about me on Southern Poverty Law Center 2 years ago about the porn. I'm not anti-gay. I don't care what I don't want it in my child's school. A heterosexual, homosexual porn, they attacked me. They saw a story written about me trying to work with Tom Holman. They attacked me. They said I'm a racist. They bigot. They wrote another story about me, Holman, General Flynn in there, and another local alderman. I know you have experiences with Southern Poverty Law Center. For my audience who's not too familiar with it, most people do know, please give your opinion on who and what they are and what they did to you.
Well, they were first formed 40, 50 years ago by Morris Dees. And if you looked his record up, he's got lots of problems. And they finally replaced him. And then the guy that really went after me, I can't remember his name, but I tried to sue him, and we didn't get it filed within a year, but within me, what I knew, what they said about me. And so finally, we settled out of court that they would just simply print a retraction and an apology in their intel report. And so I won that from them about 15 years ago.
Oh.
Since that time, they have named me one of the top domestic terrorists in America. Now get this. Yeah. Oh, I know. Very much so. And Judge Napolitano and I talked on his Fox News Freedom Watch, I think it was what his show was. Anyway, I was live in studio when he and I talked about that, and he was on it too. And so I said, I'm trying to shake hands of all of them who made the top 40 list. Ron Paul and then Judge Napolitano, all these peaceful people. In 20 years of law enforcement, I never shot anybody. I never beat anybody up. Yeah, I'm a domestic terrorist in America. I've never committed an act of violence against anyone. But recently, about a year ago, a lawyer for the Southern Poverty Law Center was arrested for domestic terrorism. And no one's ever come out. All the other leftist organizations and leftist extremist media never exposed that. Not one.
Yep.
And so the whole thing is that we're just fighting a whole cabal of all of that.
The guy that wrote the stories about me is from Chicago. He's a Chicago Antifa. He's honestly Antifa. And then the Democrats here got him to come after me. The guy's Antifa. And he wrote all this stuff about me. I'm hateful. I'm on hate watch twice. I'm hateful. Well, I hate everything. I hate my mom. I hate women. I hate everybody. And it's bullshit, man. They lie about everything. They don't go after Antifa. They don't go after BLM. They go and teach law enforcement. They get paid to say, oh, these are extremists. And it's us.
The only thing I've ever done that they didn't like is I sued the federal government and won.
You think they would like that?
Yeah.
Well, at least you guys are among good company, because a couple of our compatriots here on Ex America News are also, or have been. I think one of them was removed, but at least two of them are also on the SPLC hate list. Apparently, Will Johnson is a white supremacist. Just ignore the fact that he happens to be black. And then Inaz, Annie Cyrus, she's also made their list. Apparently, she is Islamophobic.
Yeah. If you believe in the Constitution, you believe in America, and you believe in law and order, you're going to be anti-Semitic, bigot, racist, white supremacist. And I'm none of those things. Completely opposite. Completely opposite. And so I don't mean any harm to any of these groups. And just like you said about the LGBTQ and the homosexual groups or whatever, I mean them no harm at all whatsoever. Just don't force it down my kids at school. And you can love whoever you want, and whatever you do in your bedroom is up to you. Whatever I do in mine is up to me and my wife. And we've been married 50 years, and we love everybody, and we have relatives and friends that are part of all those groups. We mean them no ill will, and I don't mean any ill will to anyone else. And my high school English teacher was Mrs. Greenbaum. I never even knew that was a Jewish name until about 30 years later, when people started talking about anti-Semitism. We loved her just like everybody else. She was a great teacher, a great lady. She was in the book club with my mother, and so this whole thing that I'm anti-Semitic somehow, I have always told them, tell me one quote from me that has ever been white supremacist or racist in any way. They can't do it. Yep. They've never been able to do it. I want to debate these people in public. They'll never do it.
Oh, they hide.
I tried to get that with some of the SPLC. They won't do it because their lies will be exposed, and they get exposed.
I'd like to beat them in public, but sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, I was just joking.
Yeah, well, I would like to beat them in a public debate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe we do need to reconsider bringing back flogging. Sheriff, where can our audience find you? And you already left us a lot of pearls of wisdom, but are there any last pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with?
Well, I'll leave it from the Founding Fathers, the last line of the Declaration of Independence. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Folks, we must do likewise today. And I ask you, each of you, to join us in this holy cause of liberty at CSPOA.org. Become a part of our posse, be a member of the CSPOA, and donate to the CSPOA. Anybody, anywhere can donate to us and help us with this holy cause that we're a part of. We are just about the only peaceful and effective solution we have. God bless Tom Homan and his great work, and President Trump, what he's trying to do.
Amen.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And to our audience, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And Terry will be back on Thursday with
Larry
even more.
Klayman. Yeah, we have Larry Klayman. Remember Larry Klayman, the attorney?
Yeah, I want him to be my lawyer if I end up suing the federal government on the issue of the Planned Parenthood.
We'll tell him. All right.
Well, we'll pass that along. Thanks again.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much. And